And welcome to this, our second lesson within the cycle of lessons that are making up our Sage CRM Fundamentals series. This is adding and changing contact data. And it's the second of a series that is looking at those basic skills for Sage CRM that sometimes, if you've been using Sage CRM for a while, you forget to explain to people. And if you are brand new to Sage, then welcome. And here we are. We're going to be exploring some of the key basic skills in using Sage CRM. In this lesson, adding and changing contact data, we're going to be looking at how we can add a new contact into Sage CRM, and that's a company and a person, thinking about individuals as well, and how their details can be edited, and the practicalities of how an address can be updated within Sage CRM as well. So all about managing a contact. And this is mostly going to be a practical session. So I'm going to be dropping now into our demo. And here you can see that I have got, I'm ready to log on again as Susan May. I'm logging on. You can see that I've come back into my experience of Sage CRM. If we're going to create a new company, then we need to look at the best way of doing that. And that's simply to click on, as we have here, the new menus. You may or may not have the ability to create new data, depending on your rights. So here, because I've got a new company option, that's clearly indicating that I've got insert rights. And you may find that the entry screen is very different in your implementation of Sage CRM. What's happening here on the screen that I've just come to is a pre-entry search. It's going to carry out a type of deduplication action, making sure that if I start to enter in the details of a company, so I might here call this gate and start to look for this, it's going to warn me that there are potentially other companies already in the system. Now, this is an area that can become quite sophisticated in ensuring that duplicates are not entered into Sage CRM. And there are some existing lessons already on the Sage support and training YouTube channel that explain how a system administrator can configure this. But in my example, if I go back and I start that process of entering a new company again, my company doesn't exist within the system. I'm going to be clearly about entering in what I want here, and I'm going to say that this is called metal. Let's call it flower market. Let's a metal flower market, and I'll call this limited as well, market limited. There you go. So I've got Metal Flower Market Limited, and I enter those company details, and I now have to start filling in the details of what this company is about, is like, whether it's active, what type of company is it? Well, is this a prospect? So am I going to be starting to go through the sales cycle with them, or are they already somebody that I've done business with within an alternative system, and therefore I know their status already? But let's call this, I'm going to mark them down as a prospect, and I can fill in the information that I need to. Now, any information that is required is marked with a little asterisk by the side, but it's very clear. If I was to try and save data, I would get indications visually on the screen as to which data was missing. So I've got validation errors because I have missed out certain mandatory data. Now, this is all under the control of the system administrator. So I can put in here, let's call this number one, uh, uh, number one Poultry Square, and let's call that London, uh, London. I'll even put in EC1 for N. So I've got a London-based company here, and I can make sure that the information is matching up as to where I want to put this. Now, I happen to be logged on as Susan May, so that she happens to be a US um, based sales manager. So putting in a London UK address is probably not the sensiblest thing in the world to do, but nevertheless, this is what I've done. And so I'm going to call this person, let's call this person Charlie, and I'll give him a name, and let's call it Charlie Smith. And you can see that I can put more information in about here. The whole question about what personal information is held within the system falls under different legislation. So we have to be very mindful of recording personal information and following privacy laws. It depends on where you are. There will be the equivalent of the GDPR, the Californian regulations, and I believe as well, you may also, if you're sending information between systems, have to think about HIPAA and other regulations around the world. But Sage CRM offers an extensive set of GDPR features, which I have covered in other lessons. But here I'm going to quickly make sure that I filled in some information that is needed. And so I want to give this person as I've got my company in here, let's see if this is this is a business address, and it's also used for billing and shipping. And I want to give them a email number. So let's call this metal. It's info. Oh, well, there we are. Metal Blue Mocked will do for me. And I'll take that idea, and for their email address for the personal one, I'll paste this in here, and I will say that this is Charlie at metalbluemarked.de. So I've saved this, and you can see that I've now got a company record recorded. Now, if I want to be able to edit a company, I need to be able to find them. And that might be that they are obviously on the screen that I've searched for using the find facility. It might be that they're a recent company that I've looked for. So I could choose to here select my company that I want to change, and I could change any of the details that are held at the level of the company. Now, when it comes to changing information within the context of a company, we entered quite a lot of information all at once. So I had entered not only a company, but I added in a default person and email information, and I could have gone on to address it, and I did enter in address information, and I could have entered in phone number information as well. That information is all held in different tables, but when you come to editing, you're typically editing one record at a time. So the company record as opposed to the address record, as opposed to the person record, as opposed to the phone number or email information. But here I can change the information for this company. I can choose save, and now that has been updated within the system. It's still presenting all of the summaried information on the main screen, but that's derived from the person that I had entered into the system and the addresses listed here as well. Now, that's adding in, if you like, a company, and I started to look at the idea of editing a company. What if I want to edit and extend a company by perhaps adding new people to that company? Now, this is my metal flower market that I'd started to create. So if I choose here to go and add in another person, I can do this either by coming into the person tab and then choosing new person, or while I'm simply looking at the summary screen, I could choose to add a new person. And because I'm looking at a company, because I'm in its context, it knows that this person is assumed to be part of this organization. And so I can call this person Harry, uh, uh, Harry. So there's a name, and I can, oops, and that's the wrong way round because that would be Crispin Harry, well, Crispin Harry, and then enter the details. And here you can see that they've come in. Now, in my example, those fields were swapped around in the previous screen. This was another type of deduplication that's taking place, a pre-entry search. These fields can be rearranged in your own implementation. They don't have to look like this. The system administrator may well have changed everything quite considerably. But you can see that my new person, before they're saved, has identified that they belong to this company. It's coming in to the point that it's assuming that it's inherited the default address from this company, and this person as well has also inherited the business email address, but we may want to change that, and I'm going to call this, instead of being this, I'm going to say that this is Harry at metalbloommarked.de. So I filled in the information that I need, so I can now save this, and if I've missed anything out, it will error, and it will tell me which fields are missing. As it has, it's entered the detail very neatly here. Now that's adding a person who's associated with the company, and you can see it made then an assumption that it wanted to add me to the idea of using the idea of the address that was the default address for the company. What if I want to add a person who is not linked to a company, but rather an individual? Now, goes down to how we work with Sage CRM as to whether we are working on the basis of business to business or business to consumer. Sage CRM can work with both business to business and business to consumer target contacts. If you're integrated with a accounting system, then very often you would find that the sole traders who you might think of in your head as an individual are nevertheless their organization is themselves. So you might have Conrad Black is a contact, but Conrad Black is also the company name as well. But here I'm talking truly about where you are dealing with individual consumers, not organizations, and that idea of being able to keep track of an individual is down to this idea of entering a new person, but not having them linked to a company. Now I can start that process and I can start to put this in. So I'm going to put in my classic individual, Hans Solo, and then enter the person details. Now, because the last company that I was looking at was Metal Flower Market Limited, and it's still in context, it thinks that it wants to add Han Solo to this company. But I can clear this field and I can now carry on and enter the individual, and they will not be linked to the company. I can change the address in the way that I want. So this is 23 square mile. And put in any address that I might want in here. So this is an S at millennium.com. And once I've chosen what I want to select here, and if everything is correct, I can then choose save. Now, this means that Han Solo now is created as an individual, unlinked to any company. He will have inherited information that has come from the previous screens, but he will have, so the address, etc., that I've entered in. So that's the idea of an individual, a standalone contact where details are not linked to any company record. Now, your own Sage CRM configuration may not actually allow for that. You may find that Sage CRM is configured by your system administrator to only allow for contacts who are part of a company or organization. If I now want to think about the management of one of those created companies and think about, say, additional addresses, I can do that. I can look to dealing with the addresses here. And again, addresses may not be actually configurable by you, because if you're in the context of an accounting integration, those addresses may be coming from the account system without the ability to change. That's dependent very much on the type of integration that you have. But here you can see I've navigated back to a company. I'm looking at the address tab, and I could now decide to enter in a new address. So if I put in here that this is 23 Independence Boulevard. I can't spell. You're going to laugh at me because I can't spell Boulevard. And I decide to set this to be the default address for the company. And let's put in Boston in here and choose save. I've now created a brand new address. It's not used for anything. You can see that it doesn't have this link symbol on the status, but I could here decide to set it as the default address for the company. And now when it comes to looking at my company and switching across, you can see that the address has changed to being 23 Independence Boulevard. Although if I look to the people that are in here and I look down inside here, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have inherited the address that I want. You can still see that they are in the context of Poultry Square, and I can then change the individuals as to which addresses that they use. So I could actually start to link them to the company address. And this allows for different addresses to be used for branch offices and different teams within a target organization. There we've looked at the idea of adding contacts into Sage CRM, and I can now return back to my presentation. So let's see if anyone has got any questions. Thank you so much for coming along today. I look forward to seeing you at next week's lessons.